Hi everyone, welcome back to our podcast, Everything Product. We talk about latest technologies with a product mindset. This is Phani. I'm a product manager at a startup.
Hey everybody, this is Sid Saladi. I'm a product manager working for Best Buy.
For everyone who is watching this podcast for the first time, don't forget to subscribe. We talk about different product management concepts and different technologies, and we come up with new concepts every week. And this week, we are going to talk about super interesting topic: how artificial intelligence is going to disrupt the search industry. We already created a video a couple of weeks back about ChatGPT, which is one of the AI-based chatbots that has been disrupting the industry. So we are expanding on that topic this week, and we are making it much more broader by taking artificial intelligence and the overall search and search industry in general. So let me start with a very simple question. Siddhu, there's so much going on in the search industry and with the chatbots, right? Can you start with what is the timeline? Like, when did it start? How it has been changing, and where is it right now?
Yeah, funny, definitely. So yeah, maybe let's walk through the timeline of the series of events which happened, which led to whatever is happening now. So I think maybe let's go back to 2015, right? That's when Sam Altman kind of started OpenAI, and got good investors where Peter Thiel invested close to or pledged $1 billion into the company. So after which, right? Yeah, there were like press releases and interviews here and there, but nothing much, right? Not the users were not able to see anything from the company. But in November 2022, ChatGPT was launched, and it was an instant sensation. It went viral, and I think it was the an application to reach 100 million users in 2 months. That's the fastest, right? You there's no other app that is even closer, right? So TikTok took close to 9 months, Instagram 30 months, and maybe Uber took 70 months. So that's how the industry or the commercial app space is. But ChatGPT kind of disrupted everything, saying, "Okay, man, I'll come in and grab like 100 million users right away." So I think that's what after this, right? Then Microsoft initially had investments in 2019 and 2021, and then again Microsoft announces a 10 billion investment into ChatGPT, and also taking maybe stake into ChatGPT. And everybody's like wondering why Microsoft is investing so much into a chatbot here. And that's when Bing kind of adds a co-pilot, and Microsoft launches that in an event, and kind of demos, right? How could it improve search, and why Google is lagging behind in search and all of that stuff, where Google also, right, kind of feels the fire, and marks it as a code red, ChatGPT as a code red. And they've been working on this for a while, where they acquired DeepMind the same time where OpenAI started, and they also have a chat assistant now called Bard. But the demo kind of went, I think there were some factual errors when there was the Google demo that kind of went viral. But overall, right, there's lot of things going on, right? A chatbot coming in, disrupting the industry, then a search giant kind of investing and also integrating that, and also who's like the standard in search is trying to do a catch-up game here. So this is all series of things which are going on. But I would say, Funny, maybe before getting into details of all of these things, why don't we just start with what is search, and what do people search as an industry itself? Like let's get into those details.
Absolutely, Siddhu. So, at a very broad level, right, search can be put into like three different buckets. The first one is navigational, second one is informational, and the third one is everything else. So navigational is the simplest search. Like, you want to go to YouTube, you go and search for YouTube, it will show a link for it, and then you go to that. The second one is informational. So for example, let's take SQL in mind. Let's say you're trying to like create a query. You go to Google, search for it. It'll give you like a bunch of websites which has a lot more information about that. You go to that, get lot more of information. Third one is everything else. What I mean by that is, you're trying to like do some transaction. You're trying to like book some flights, buy some products, etc. You go through that, Google will give you certain things, then you do a bunch of additional steps to finally finish your end process. So this is the top level things that a search could be categorized into. Within this, AI could disrupt like several segments within that to start with.
Yeah, that's right, Funny. So I think you put it in a really simple way to categorize all the searches, right? So maybe let's put that product manager hat here, right? I trying to understand search. So if we categorize them into navigational, as you said, is more about if I want something, I'll search, right? And it takes me to that website, and I get that information, right? And then you're saying there's more informational search where you're asking for weather updates, score details, right? And you get that search. And there's also everything else, which is you could ask for planning a trip, the 10 best TVs, and all of that. That's everything else. Maybe let's divide this three into three buckets: 30% navigational, 30% informational, everything else is 40%, right? But currently, Google, there are around 100,000 searches every second in Google, but the persona who is actually searching for in all under all these three buckets, right? Only the navigational piece is done the right way, where Google is perfect in doing that, right? But when you go to the informational piece, right? Yeah, you might search for some information, but only half of those searches are being served. There could be complex informational searches, like saying, okay, I want to know if a love seat fits in my car, right? How do you know that, right? So yeah, you have to punch through blogs trying to understand the measurements of your car and also the measurements of the seat and all of that stuff. And there's also complex searches, right? Design itinerary for me, or give me the top 10 TVs and all of that stuff, which are not being served for. So out of all the searches made, 100,000 every second, 50,000 searches takes more effort and time for people to figure out the answers. So I think that's where all of this AI chatbots come into play, where they come in and say, okay, hey Sid, you're saying that you need so maybe I go in and say that, okay, I need the top five best TVs, right? See, Siri is like talking in between. So I go to Google and say, okay, give me the top five TVs, and then it gives me a list of TVs there. Then I have a specific criteria saying that, okay, I only have a budget of $1,000. Can you filter that? Or I have a room which is like so and so dimensions, and my sofa is placed so and so in this place. So which would be the best one to do it? So for this, I had to do a lot of research, right? But if I have a Google chatbot, right, or a AI Bing chatbot, it can help me filter all of those searches. So I think this is a unique place, which is basically these AI searches can start and also start disrupting it.
If you stayed until this time, I would totally imagine that you're loving the video. So please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I think we have also seen few of these examples when Microsoft was talking through it, right? They're like basic searches, anyone can do it, but the complex ones is where people are actually spending a lot of time. And that is where Google is unable to serve that customer. Let's go into a little bit more details, right? Let me ask this first. Google has been the search giant for the last few decades that I know of. And if anyone first, they go to a browser first, they would usually go to like google.com, or the search bar typically is like Google search. Why do you think they are unable to come up with something innovative for the last decade or so, where such small companies like OpenAI or DeepMinds were able to like start to work on it?
Yeah, so I'd say OpenAI and DeepMind kind of started with the same philosophy, I guess, right? Like general intelligence and general AI intelligence and all of that stuff. And Google acquired DeepMind, but I'm assuming Google basically was using DeepMind to make all of the internal applications which are already existing much better, and the process is much better, and all of that stuff, analytics much better. But OpenAI was concentrating at a different strategic initiative where it wants to make it easy for people to get get answers for what they search for, right? So I think that's the strategic difference between both of these companies. So Google had a different strategic direction, and OpenAI had a different strategic direction, and that's how you see a lot of startups come in with a different focus and disrupt industry, where the bigger giants are focusing elsewhere, which could have not moved the ball as much as this small startup with 10, 20, or 100 people have changed or disrupted the industry.
That is true. I'm also surprised about Google because when their Google Assistant released, right? Which year was that? Maybe 2016, 2017. I was one of the biggest fans of them. I know Alexa existed, but Google doing that was pretty big because of the all the information that they have about me. And if I think about Google Home or their virtual assistants right now, they are like very minimal. Like many times what happens is it might not even be able to like continue the conversation with me. Like it'll completely forget what I asked before, or it might not be able to relate to any of those things. And that's where I'm totally looking forward to what will happen in this AI based virtual assistants.
Yeah, so for me, my favorite is Alexa. I know it's easier, more customizable. Initially started with Google, but felt Alexa was much easier. Then, I moved everything back to Alexa. Yeah,
Nice.
so funny. Yeah, so we talked about, all what all happened, right? Then we defined what basic search is, and we also defined where the gap is and where Bing and ChatGPT is trying to play. Should we also look into the economics of how search works, right? I think that's also a big factor here. As of now, um, when we look at Google's market share worldwide in the search industry, it's close to 84%, because Chrome, Google, everybody's default is Google, right? And Bing has been increasing slowly over the years. So it has been 6% before. Now I think it's close to 9%. That's a huge difference, right? It's almost a monopoly on the Google side. So Google was like comfortable in their own place, where other companies were trying to disrupt the whole industry here. So maybe getting into the economics here. So all of this data basically is from a different podcast called All In Podcast. So just to make sure, I wanted to get my sources right here. So looks like uh, every search which happens, it costs Google 2.5 cents, right? 2.5 cents. So that's for the tech, the servers, everything that Google maintains. And they kind of get from anywhere between 5 to 10 cents per search. So that's through ad revenue. There, imagine you go in and search in Google. That doesn't mean that you are actually generating that revenue. There are people who look at ads and all of that stuff. So that basically turns into revenue for Google. So imagine Google is basically getting a 2.5 cents per cent of profit, and also there's a cost of 2.5 cents for that. But when you look at the same economics for ChatGPT, it costs way more, because it needs a lot of more computing. So it costs ChatGPT close to 30 cents for that. So there is a lot of economics and things that have to be figured out before Bing even gets closer to Google, right? So just let's maybe take an example right here. Google's overall revenue per quarter is $69 billion on ad revenue. But if Bing were to do all the searches which Google does now, get all the traffic, it costs them $80 billion. So they have to figure out a revenue model where they're able to justify that cost, right? And that's like 10x reduction in the cost which they are occurring right now. So it's not like Bing would come take over everything overnight and have like 90% share. It'll take years and years for them to make every system better and better. That's how the whole economics work here.
Let me add a few more details, right? Why do you think Microsoft is doing this? So one typical straightforward answer that I could think of is they would probably want to get the searches. Like they actually want to get the customer data. Microsoft, if you think of philosophically what they have done in the past, they've never been in this business of like information gathering and then using that information to like serve ads. They've always been in like product businesses. It could be office, it could be like actual laptops, etc. They've always been in that business of physical goods where they're not actually gathering too much information to do something. That's what they tried to do with Bing and others, but they have never been successful. So this would be a main entry point for them to like disrupt that industry. But thinking beyond, right? If you think of what Microsoft does typically, they always purchase something that enhances their current products.
Yeah.
So this AI based chatbot can actually enhance any of their other products as well, be it Office, like even Satya was talking about like Clippy coming back as the help text, right? That could revolutionize any of their Office products. And it can also help them connect with their audience at every place. I'll tell you why. So if you think of big enterprises, they use a lot of Microsoft products, be it Teams, be it their video calls, etc., etc. But at all of these places, the customers, whoever is using this, they end up going to Chrome, they end up going to Google search. So there is a big disconnect in the ecosystem here. The customers are not using their entire ecosystem of products. But having something like this would enhance their chats. Um, there might not be Slack in the future if an AI chatbot can take over what a customer is doing through Slack. So there could be a lot of additional improvements that they can come up with even in the enterprise world. What do you
Yeah,
think?
that's right. So also I see another advantage for Microsoft is distribution, right? I think distribution is not a problem for them. I think they just need a product which solves a user need, which they are actually trying to do with ChatGPT here. So because Microsoft exists everywhere, right? Like they have an OS, they have productivity apps and all of that stuff, and ChatGPT could be integrated into all of this. And I think Microsoft has plans to integrate it into email, Word, Excel, and all of that stuff. You know, this reminds me of another ad which I was looking at. Like I was watching a YouTube video, and suddenly an ad pops up saying, "Okay, this is a Google Sheets kind of software. I think called Grid or something." But they integrated ChatGPT into it, and this actually suggests you formulas. I know that a lot of people are using ChatGPT to ask questions on, okay, if I have to do this combination, what would be the formula? Now you can actually do it right in the application itself. That's intelligent way of integrating things, right?
Yep. Actually, I'll ask you one more question, Siddhu. So I've always been like fond of like, let's say Google Home or Alexa. I have both at home, but I keep using like one or the other. Microsoft has Cortana and has never been able to like revolutionize that virtual assistant industry, right? Do you think having this AI chatbot could help bring the Cortana back into the business? And probably, do you think they'll sell their smart speakers and everything as well?
I think they should do something like that, because I think all of these AI assistants, right? Every time you have a conversation, I think you basically have to give it a context and start from the beginning, right? But imagine a chatbot who which understands your preferences and gives you answers based on that, right? So maybe take an example, right? I'll ask me, suggest me a dish which I could cook, right? But if it already knows that I'm an Asian, I'm from India, and I like certain kind of dishes, it could basically narrow down my search towards all of that instead of me taking that effort to, right? So there could be a multiple different ways to look at it. But I would say, yeah, I think that will be a very good way to enhance assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. It can also help increase their product sales too. Because if I think of their laptops, right, I've used their Surfaces in the past. They're one of the best tablets or the PCs that I've used. But still, they might not be able to like dominate the market. Or even if they want to like go to like simpler products, like if you think of Alexa, right? Every product that you think of has Alexa in it. Like Amazon has their own tablets. I've seen like what do you say, frame kind of things. You can put an Alexa in the car. It's
There's
everywhere, and
there's
they
a
even
Alexa
introduced
Auto
like
too.
yeah, there is a walking bot as well that they released, right? That continues to follow you, and then
Yeah, there's also Alexa glasses, man. I don't know, like Amazon, like this innovates in such a big pace, but we can't even keep track of what all the Alexa devices they've released, right?
yeah, exactly. So this gives a leverage for Microsoft to like come into any of this. Actually, let's switch gears a little bit, Sidhu. I know I'm taking off topic. I'm going off topic, but let's think of Google, right? What do you think Google will do in the next couple of months?
That's very interesting, Funny, because I was thinking this through a lot of different plays, right? So for now, let's imagine the basic principle on how Google earns money is, right. It People come to its platform, right, search for information, spend more time. The more time they spend, they see more ads, and based on that ads, right, the the organizations who are running the ads pay Google for that, and they get customers and all of that stuff. So so the whole principle is like making others spend more time on Google. But imagine we're introducing a chatbot which minimizes the time people search for things. That would be very hard for Google to. I'm not sure how Google would monetize, but definitely that's reducing the amount of time people are spending on the platform itself, right. And it could cannibalize its own product if they kind of integrate something like Bard into Google search. What's your take?
Actually, I have a completely opposite thought process. So let me explain. Let me give an example, right? So I was trying to like create some SQL queries in the last week or so. Okay, typical, at least what I've learned in the past. Some websites that you go to, like let's say W3 schools or something like that. But what I did this time was I went to ChatGPT and I said, "Hey, write a query for this." It's like, "Oh, this is good." So I just asked, like, "Hey, modify this query to give me something else." Gave me that also. I added another complexity to that and it gave me another query. So what ended up happening, if you think of the scenario, is I didn't do a Google search. I didn't actually go through W3 School's website and spend time there. So even in the past world or the current world, I'm not actually spending time on Google. I'm actually spending time on the individual websites. So at least my thought process here is if you have a chatbot, the customer will actually spend more time on the Google website or the Bing website where they'll continually sit there, continually search to get their information. Uh, in the past, like W3 schools might give me some information, but I'll have to struggle to like do everything else. So now I'm spending too much time on the Google website. But what's happening here is the actual time that I spent on the W3 schools that is reduced drastically. So
Yeah.
now, what the overall impact here might not be to Google, but it might be to the end websites that are actually giving this information. Hope you're enjoying this video. If you're enjoying it, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and please share the video with your friends and family.
Yeah, that's a very interesting problem, Funny. So imagine all of these complex searches, right? There are blogs too, where people come in and write, right? So if I search for the top treadmills, there are like multiple different blogs which people write, and I go through them and maybe select one. But when and people are incentivized to write blogs because there is more traffic, they run ads, and they get basic revenue out of it, right. But imagine there's a chat assistant which is crawling all the data for free and giving out the search results. What would these people get, and why are they incentivized to write this? Without this data, the chatbot doesn't exist in the first place. I think that's a very interesting problem which Google has to solve. Will Google maybe um, give revenue, like imagine it lists out 7 or 8 items, and that has been listed in 5 or 6 blogs. It maybe do a revenue share with everybody who's doing that or it's reading it. But the other problem here is AI is like a black box, right? You basically train it against it. You don't know how is it ending up with that answer, or what all it has. Maybe they could look at what all it has referred, but there are millions of variables that the whole neural network basically is looking at, right? So that's a black box. You never know what answer you get, and a prompt might change the answer you get. So yeah, that's a very interesting problem where how do you still incentivize these individual websites to give that information? Otherwise, without that information, even chatbots are useless.
Yep. I want to give you one example. I don't know if it's relevant here, right? So let's think of pre-YouTube era. What used to happen? Like there are multiple websites where people can create their videos, and based on the number of views and stuff, either that individual website pays the money, or the end customer could be paying money to you to view that. Okay. Post YouTube era, what's happening now? Everyone is like uploading their videos into YouTube, and uh, YouTube is paying you based on the views, based on the watch time, etc., etc. I would imagine a similar world in the future with the AI chatbots. What I would assume is in the past, like let's say I'm going through individual websites of W3 schools where Google AdSense or something like that is showing ads. So based on the clicks and stuff, they're going to make money. Now, this that is going to drastically reduce because customers might not be going through the websites. Now, what will end up happening? At least my thought process here is the Google AI chatbot, based on the references that you're talking about, or based on the learning, like how much ever time the bot has to spend on their website or whatever. Maybe Google incentivizes that and pays them. This will also make it a two-way marketplace. In the past, Google is just a place where it's like scraping through all the websites and serving the information. Now, Google or Microsoft might be a company which now has to maintain uh, a traffic of websites and the people and incentivize them for just keeping it alive.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, and we solved the problem. So maybe a counter argument to that would be these websites wouldn't let Google or any other bots crawl through their website, right, and look at the data. Red block all dot some extension bots who are trying to read a lot of information from them, or maybe to just read the information, Google or Microsoft have to pay the website a minimal amount of
Mm.
money, and the money could be based on how they are ranked in the search or how many visits they have and all of that stuff.
But more than Google being dependent on these websites, I think these websites are also a lot reliant on Google right now, because a lot of small businesses, they want to be shown on Google Maps. They want to be shown on the Google search. So it
Yeah,
might
man,
be a whole lot play. Yeah.
that's right. So I think this changes a lot of different vertical industries also, Funny, because I was also thinking through, right, like people, the natural way of people to communicate with others is, natural language, but that has changed when, or we interact differently with all the applications, right? We interact with applications like Google, Amazon, and YouTube through keywords, but that's not natural to humans. But when I talk to a chatbot, that's natural, right? I say, okay, maybe it's just like talking to you. Hey, Funny, I'm trying to figure out this problem, and this is how it is, and these are the requirements which I have, and this is the duration which I have. Can you help me do that? So that's a natural way of humans to talk to, right? So if you apply the same thing into shopping, when I go to Amazon and let's take the same example of browsing LCD TVs or OLEDs or something like that. I go and search, right? On the side, I see a lot of preferences which I can check mark, right? Like 4-star rating, inches, OLED, refurbished or a new, and all of that stuff. And all of these options come when there's a developer who is talking to customers, trying to understand what their preferences are and add those options on that. Imagine there are like 10 more options which I would want, but not are not on the check marks on the side. How would I do the search? Then what I would do is maybe go in and read all the searches which Amazon shows, and then read the descriptions, and then figure out, okay, uh, imagine one more example where I need a different wattage for the TV. I go search for every result, search 5 or 6 and then look at the specs and then see, okay, this is what I want, and then order. Imagine that being changed by chat gpt, right? So I type in all my preferences. It says, Sid, so these are the three TVs which you can buy for the the size, the specifications, the budget, and also the requirements what you have for your house.
Yep.
Even it's not just Google that has to worry about it. Amazon has to worry about it, right? YouTube has to worry about it, and also Reddit, informational search, right? You go in and search for a query saying that, okay, my kid is sick. What do I do, right? Like, that's more informational search, and Reddit, where a lot of users contribute towards saying, this is what I did, this is what I tried, and all of that stuff. But ChatGPT would come in and give you tips, 5 or 6 tips right away.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of behavioral aspects that would change as well. Like a lot of things where you would actually rely on human, an AI bot could probably replace that and then give better answers. I think it's actually good for humans too. Many a times we struggle to find the right answer, but I mean, I'm sure the AI bot might not be right now, but as it continues to learn and grow, the information that we would get like would save like crazy amount of time for us. Cool. Sidhu, let me ask, what are the things that you're like most excited about in this AI revolution?
AI revolution. I think the first thing is I want to see how the shopping experience changes for everybody, right? Is it I would want to maybe speak to somebody, a chatbot, where it understands everything what I'm talking to it, like my partner, and maybe shows me a result, top results of 1 or 2 things which I would want to buy, right? So that could be one thing I'm looking forward. And the next thing which I see is learning, right? I think the pace at which you learn things uh, will drastically change, right? Before it was, as you gave an example, where you are trying to do a lot of SQL queries, trying to look at W3 schools, but now you just give it a prompt and it'll actually teach you doing it much faster. Also, one of my friend was telling me that she was trying to learn Python, and I think now in a week she was doing that through ChatGPT. In a week she's at an intermediate level. Maybe before it would have taken longer time. So I think learning is another way where you can use this a lot. The third one is, I would say, all of the copywriting spaces, like all the tasks, right? Like the websites, the blogs, and all of that stuff could be done through Chat GPT, and or maybe all of these different spaces, right, need to innovate and change it in a way which is more personalized to people than a generic chatbot, right? Something like that. So that could be another space which I'm looking at. So yeah, I'd say shopping, learning, and all the copywriting pieces. The last one is, as we talked about all the different types of searches, the 50%, the way people search, the 50% of the searches would change, and they would get much more better information. So yeah, those are my takeaways. How about you?
Yeah, that's awesome. My few takeaways. The first one I think is virtual assistants for sure. I think I'm like in that stage of being fed up, where it's like it just does basic things and nothing beyond that. I think I'm like super excited to see like how virtual assistants would change. The second one is apps in itself. So I would see this as a, what do you say, app store era, where iPhone released the app store and there like crazy amount of apps that came out of it that changed the world and how we utilize things. I see this the same way because all the apps would probably use these AI models in the future and continue to give like better responses, better results, etc. Uh, I, I could totally imagine a world where like games are powered by AI, how different features could be coming up, etc. So I'm like super excited to see like how the apps would turn around. And the last one is enterprises. I think there is a lot of churn that typically take places in enterprises, the lack of information, miscommunications, etc. I think a lot of these chatbots could help in like gathering that information, making enterprises much more faster. If enterprises are faster, that would actually eventually help the people. So these are
Yeah,
my top three things.
Man, I think those are really interesting ones. So for the app space, right? I was just, as you're talking, I was thinking, imagine OpenAI or ChatGPT as a platform layer or an enablement layer. Imagine the amount of or the number of applications that could be built using this platform, right? So that's
Yep.
like so powerful, and I think we are just at the starting of it. Imagine what would happen in next 5 to 10 years, right? There could be maybe unicorns or decacons that are coming out of just building on top of chat gpt, right? Maybe there are already people who have started working on things.
Yep. But there will be that gap for sure, Sidhu. I mean, there might be a lot of buzz initially without the right products because the search might be having the right product right now, but everyone else will try to do with like some scrappy product. But that's good. Eventually, all the products that survives with AI would eventually rule the world.
Yeah, I would love to have a virtual assistant in the office which basically reads all the data, all the historic data of the company, and maybe sits in the meeting and tells you, okay, when you're doing arguments or wanting to take decisions which are backed by data, says that, hey Sid, I think you're going in the wrong direction. This was tried multiple times before but never succeeded, but there was no one who has actually documented something like this or something
Yep,
like that. Right.
that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, Sidhu. Love the conversation. I think we should totally like talk more about some of these technologies in the future too. And for everyone who's watching, please don't forget to subscribe and please share the video with your friends and family. Thank you.
Thanks all.